Hey guys, LevelCap here, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Gaming, the news show where we cover all things FPS. If a story in particular interests you, be sure to check the description for links to all the news I'm covering today. Now, the big news story this week, of course, was DICE giving us our first look at Battlefield 1's first expansion, They Shall Not Pass. I did a video breaking down all the info, so make sure you check that out. In a nutshell, the first expansion will be adding new maps, weapons, and the French Army faction as a Battle of Verdun themed DLC, or at least mostly themed. They Shall Not Pass doesn't drop until March, and with Battlefield 1's lack of a real progression system, I'm hoping DICE adds some more free content like another map or something before then. As part of the Christmas event, DICE have added another new custom game mode to Battlefield 1 called Blind Delivery. It's basically a pistols-only War Pigeons mode with most of the UI turned off. I played it, I don't really care for it that much. One thing that I have been wanting to play though is the standard issue rifles mode, but I haven't been able to find any servers hosting it. I think there's a little bit of a problem going on right now with some of the new game modes or options out there, is that DICE hasn't really set up a way for people to get into some of these custom game modes consistently. And even with Blind Delivery, although I've been able to get into a game of it, it was mostly on the day it came out, and now I know a lot of people are having trouble finding a server with it. I think part of the problem is that there's so many things to do in Battlefield 1 and people love the core game mode so much that unless the custom game mode is really forced upon people, there's not going to be too many people trying to matchmake for it. Now, in somewhat sadder news, Crytek announced that they're closing 6 of their remaining 8 studios. Their co-founder Avni Yurli said in a press release that these changes are part of the essential steps we are taking to ensure Crytek is a healthy and sustainable business moving forward. Crytek is famous for the Crysis game franchise and the Cry engine. For years, they set the standard in PC gaming graphics, and if your PC could run Crysis, then it was a pretty darn good PC. Now, ever since Crysis 2, it seems like Crytek have been caught between making games to compete with Call of Duty and maintaining the high-end tech appeal. Crysis 3, despite being a technically incredible game, wasn't a strong seller. The same is true for their Xbox One launch title, Rise: Son of Rome. Personally, I think it would be a shame to see Crytek close their doors for good. Crysis 1 is still a great game to this day, and I think the franchise could make a comeback if Crytek played their cards right. Star Citizen's mastermind Chris Roberts said Crytek closing wouldn't have an impact on the upcoming game, which runs on the Cry engine. In fact, Star Citizen has taken many of the original Cry engine developers and implemented them in their own dev team. The engine itself has been manipulated and modified so extensively that it's probably a good deal more powerful in many areas. Moving on, when it comes to games selling well, it's no secret that Overwatch was one of the year's biggest sellers. Accounting for nearly 10% of all revenue generated by games on PC, Overwatch made a whopping $585 million this year. In second was CSGO at $257 million. Blizzard obviously intends to support Overwatch for years to come with new heroes, maps, game modes, and more. So it's anyone's guess as to how much more money it will make over the next few years. And speaking of games taking everyone's money, Steam Winter Sale is in full swing. Obviously, the deals are pretty good, so if you're a PC gamer or even working on your first PC build, be sure to check out Steam to get your library started. Microsoft is also having a big winter sale on Xbox One and Xbox 360, featuring dozens of games up to 60% off. It's a pretty incredible sale for console games. It's honestly quite insane just how competitive these sales have gotten with each other. Regardless of what platform you play on, now is a great time to be buying games. In other console news, Eurogamer have leaked more details about the specs of Nintendo Switch. The most notable thing was that the Switch is about 40% more powerful when docked. Last week, the rumors had the Switch being about on par with the PlayStation 4 in terms of hardware performance, so it's not clear how the docked performance will boost the actual effects of games, or if docked performance will be what the PS4 performance is and undocked will be slightly slower. It's pretty common practice to throttle hardware when it runs on battery just to get the most battery life and performance possible. Considering how small the Switch is, it makes sense that it would run in a low power mode when used as a handheld device. The battery life on it would probably be horrible if it didn't throttle down. Moral of the story is we still don't know exactly what Nintendo are putting in the Switch, but whatever it is, I'm sure it will be good enough to run whatever games Nintendo throws at it. In our final bit of news this week, the Half-Life 1 remake, Black Mesa, is finally nearing completion. The devs released the first screenshots of their vision of Zen, the final level in the original Half-Life. Last year, Black Mesa went from being a free mod to an overhauled version of the same mod in early access on Steam. Since then, it's gotten a ton of updates and support. Zen is basically the final piece in the puzzle that has been the remastering of Half-Life. The original game's final level was rushed by Valve to meet their release deadline. It's considered by a lot of people to be sort of like an unfinished or prototype version of a much more complex level. Black Mesa's biggest goal outside of the remaster was to do Zen properly, which meant remaking and greatly expanding the level from the ground up. The screenshots look pretty fantastic, so hopefully we'll get to see more of it soon. Anyway, that kind of wraps it up for this week in gaming as we head into the holidays and the new year. I'm sure we'll be getting a lot more exciting news about upcoming spring and summer releases. As always, guys, thanks for watching, happy holidays, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.